Oh Lord, dummy your mic. Let me
Yo.
hear this.
You know what we really need? We just need to be one.
Your people gone.
I mean, my people gone. I mean, do we really got to get raced? I'm on the fucking podium right now. You heard me? I'm on the fucking podium.
Ooh, get off the stage.
I'm on the fucking podium. You call me
Bro,
President
who's out
Slim in
the
his
door,
bitch.
bro?
I don't know.
Ooh.
I mean, you got
Wait,
first
did
type
someone
on you
leave?
drive right now.
No,
we're all
nobody
in
left. Bro,
here.
who's not at the door?
It's there. I think it's glitch.
I was here.
I think I was too far in the door. Bless you.
But then y'all, or knees.
I just fucking played your ass off. Caleb Williams reportedly visited O Block in an effort to make amends with the people of Chicago after performance in Week 1.
Oh my god. It's wrecking Kamala and Trump time. Oh my god. Peak.
Well, you're locking on the game, bro.
Shut up, fuck.
Locking on the
Maybe
game.
change the way you look.
Ooh.
You. Nigga saying who? Like, you don't know who I'm talking to.
He'll dig
Guarding an AI.
Wall the AI.
Man, AI's face is crazy. And his teeth.
I got a drippy face cam on.
Did you just call A2 an AI, asshole?
When someone's on me,
Corner.
walk up. I'm blind. That ball.
Oh shit, that's fast.
Well, you look drippy, AFS.
Thank you. I made a drippy face cam.
I haven't seen.
The most consequential moment of this campaign, Kamala Harris.
Oh, I'm feeling good on this. Got him stumbling.
How what you gonna do?
Oh, corner. Back to
Wait, right there.
Good evening, I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's ABC News.
Oh, I felt that one. Green, I swear to God. Visual.
It feels like I could agree with this though. I don't know why.
Glad it could feel like it, but
I'm
they
re-
can't
I'm
get
re-
with it.
I never realized how retarded I sounded after I said that. My fault. Corner.
Shit felt good though.
That shit I'm saying that shit look good on the hands though.
It felt good though.
Wait, come all in my ear right now. Hold up.
That brings us to the rules of tonight's
They're not even live yet.
I just
The
lied.
big one in this thing.
questions have been shared with the campaigns.
What?
Candidates will have 2 minutes to
Leaking.
answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2
Leak.
minutes. 1 minute for follow-ups, clarifications, or
I'm gonna leave the AI open at
Their
3.
microphones will only be turned on when it's their turn to speak.
I got 0 again now. Oh, it's
I'm gonna
yours?
leave my play open at those 3.
That shit weak. Come on.
This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
Yo, my batteries are low.
Wait, they got the coin
damn
toss for the debate. That's fine.
Wait for who goes first.
I'm controlling my die.
That's fine. He said Donald Trump won the coin toss. Are you crazy?
Yeah, you could bet on that.
On what? Who's gonna have the better debate points?
No,
Oh,
it
the
wasn't
coin
coin
Oh,
toss.
they shook hands. Okay.
It's so far behind.
Good
They
evening. We are
Why are you watching it?
spirited and thoughtful
I
debate.
watched the last
So
one.
let's get started.
touch
Why?
gloves.
Begin
They
tonight
touch
with the
gloves. They
issue
touch
that
gloves.
voters
I
repeatedly
just- I
say
spend my
is
know,
their
like,
number
what's
one
going
issue,
on.
and that is the economy and the cost
People
of
probably
living
don't
in
know
this
what Project
country.
2025
Vice
is.
President Harris,
Yes, I
you and
do. We
President
talked about
Trump
this
were
before.
elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the
Oh, yeah,
stage
I
here
told
tonight
you.
often asks his supporters, "Are you better off?"
Yeah,
than you
free
were 4 years
fucking
ago?"
YNW
When it
Melly
comes to
or
the
what?
economy, do you believe
No.
Americans are better off
That
than
guy's
they
just-
were 4 years ago?
I think that brother did it.
So
Tell me that brother was supposed to get out 5
raised
years
a
ago.
middle-class kid.
Yeah.
And
God
I am
damn it,
actually
man.
the only
Seriously.
person
Yeah, you were locked in.
on
You had the
this
court
planet
records. You
that
had
is lifting up the
evidence.
middle class and working working people of
You
America.
can say the same thing for
I
Thug. Thug should
believe
be
in
free.
the ambition, the
Yeah, but you
aspirations,
show me
the
hard
dreams
proof
of the
evidence. You said
American
YMW
people.
Millie
And
out
that is
for
why
real.
I imagine and have
I think
actually
he-
planned to
I don't
build
know.
what I call an opportunity
From
economy.
what I've seen the
Because here's
last
the
time I looked
thing.
at a long time
We
ago,
know
the
that we have a
the cops are like
homes and
against it all.
housing. And the cost of
Yeah, we
housing
can
is
start
too
guarding our
expensive for
niggas or
far
what?
too many people.
I'm a Dane.
We
My
know
nigga
that
got
young
zero.
families need support
I don't know how to tell
I
you.
should
to
have
raise
shot
their
that.
children, and I intend on
Him.
extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000.
I mean,
which
big
is the largest
I mean,
child tax credit
I was
we've
opening
given
the
in a long
paint.
time, so that those young
Well, I
families
thought
can
you
afford
were
to
getting out
buy
in the
a
fucking-
crib,
I'm logged in,
buy a
my
car
fault,
seat, buy
I'm logged in.
clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses.
Lagging or am I
I was
logged in?
actually, my mother raised my sister and me,
He's locking in.
but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a
He
small
delayed.
business
He
owner.
not
I love
getting
small
Trump's-
businesses.
Trump's eyes is
My
white and the
plan
rest of
is
his
to
face
give
is
a
orange.
$50,000 tax deduction.
That's an AI,
He just
man.
came out- he just came out the tandem
Knowing
bed.
they are part of the backbone of America's economy.
Tell me I'm a
My
fucking
opponent, on
guardian
the other
AI.
hand, his plan
No, you don't
is to
make
do
it
what
all
he has
time.
done before,
Good
which is to
shit,
provide
Derek.
a tax
Seriously,
cut
kid.
for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
Alright.
Economists have said that Trump
Circle
sales
X.
tax would actually result for middle-class
Circle
families
X.
in about
Whatever your button
$4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts
Ferris
for
just said she lied though.
First of all, I have
Nigga,
no
that's all
sales
politics
tax.
is.
That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be
Damn,
substantial
bro.
in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars.
That's
as you know,
fair,
from
too.
My
China.
dad just got
In fact, they never
geeked
took
at
the
those
tariff
small
off because it was
business
so
tax
much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before. Probably the worst in our nation's history.
Bless you.
We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country.
white,
They're
too, like-
dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again,
Derek.
and even better.
We are going to get to immigration
High
and
five,
border
Derek.
security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy
you love me.
since the Civil War. And what we have
What
done
the-
is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do
Come
is
on,
build
just
on what we know
momentum
are the
dribbled. I mean, you're
aspirations and
actually
hopes of the
25 years
American
old
people. But I'm
typing
gonna
brain
tell you
rot.
on this
Cutting
debate tonight,
off.
you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook. A bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed
Wait, she's a
and
vice
dangerous
president?
plan called
Yeah.
Project 2025 that the former president intends on
Biden.
implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands
What
the
the-
importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas. I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died. Has there been anything like it? We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the
We were losing, lucky.
it was before the pandemic.
I mean, you talking about
came in.
Kamala? Give me the
Nobody's
fucking
ever
rock.
seen anything like it.
Fuck up
We
and shit
made
the ball, you
ventilators in
bitch.
the entire world. We got gowns. We
Oh,
got
shit, yeah, open
things
book.
that nobody thought
Can I just
possible.
start up on him?
And people give
So
me
check
credit for
diesel.
rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot
Trump
of
said
things,
he an open
but
book.
not
He
enough
lying.
credit for the great
Mullet.
job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back.
So I
and
feel
it
good
went to
doing
their
it. Yeah, that shit
benefit.
kinda fire,
But
low-key.
I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does
Oh.
everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So,
Bump still.
Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at
Okay.
his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people.
Shit.
I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the
Gonna go
future
full
of
forward.
America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan
Go ahead,
would
Dan,
make
eat
the
my lot.
economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What
go ahead
the
and
Wharton
talk,
School
eat my
has
lot.
said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode
Nah,
the
that's late
deficit.
Baldos, man. You should have just taken it at that
Wow.
point.
Have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where
Dude,
we're
don't
going
shut after
issues. And
this.
I'd invite you to know
Change it
that
again.
Donald Trump
I'm already
actually
in.
has
Go ahead.
no plan for
That nigga
you
trying to talk his
because
mic
he is more
muted.
interested in defending
Bro.
himself
That's
than
fine.
he is
Yeah, they
looking
muted him
out for
because
you.
one debate he just kept cutting Biden off the entire
Went to
time,
the
so he
Wharton
muted the
School of
mic.
Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think the plan
Give me
is a
another
one.
brilliant
Oh, shit.
plan. It's a great
Alright.
plan. It's a plan that's
Bro,
going
there's too many black
Come on,
niggas
bro,
like
give
I
me another
said,
one.
bro.
our value as a country. It's going to make people want to
Come on,
be
bro, give me
able to
another
go
one.
and work.
I
create
saw
jobs,
very
and create
late
a
is
lot of
crazy.
Good, solid
too, bro.
money for our,
I don't know what to
country.
do.
And just to finish
No,
off,
my fault.
she doesn't
hot.
have a plan.
I saw it.
She copied
Oh.
Biden's
I'm
plan.
ugly?
Hot, you suck.
Four
Oh, like I'm
sentences,
sweating, like I'm hot.
like run,
Oh, no.
spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh,
Oh shit, the deep breath.
She doesn't
Oh
have a plan.
shit.
Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up.
Where the bro
the
move
Vice President
forward?
brought up your tariffs.
They get
You
me
Cares,
responded.
bro.
Let's drill
Nobody
down
can
on this.
shoot.
What you say, Shaggy?
Your plan is
Said I
what
need
she
to give me a
calls
Corona.
is essentially a national sales
Corona?
tax. Your proposal
You
calls for
drinking
tariffs,
already?
as you pointed out
Do
here,
it for me.
on foreign imports across the board. You recently said
No.
that you might double your plan,
I'm
proposing
not.
tariffs up to 20% on
Yeah,
goods coming
Shocky.
into this country.
Oh my god.
As you know,
thought you
many
had them.
economists say that we
Damn,
can't
he
have
just
that
launched
level
that
of cost
motherfucker.
passed on to the
Okay, the
consumer.
hashtag, go get some
Vice
batteries.
President
I'll be
Harris
back.
is
Shit,
arguing
Derek,
that
plug your
higher
Nigga, why don't
prices
you
of
plug a
gas,
cable
food,
in?
Clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly
That nigga is
$4,000
ugly.
a
Hello?
year. Do you believe Americans
Bro, look at
can
that
afford
nigga. Why he
higher
look
prices
like
because
that?
of
It's an
tariffs?
AI.
Yeah, look at his
I don't know
teeth.
why he look like
Who's gonna
that.
have higher
Here,
prices is
I'm
China
smiling.
and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever.
Who's winning? Who's
China
winning the
was paying
debate?
us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years
Hundreds
now
of billions?
under their
I mean, I was just
administration.
clamping without playing, no?
We are going to take
Nigga, why don't you use a cable?
billions of
That
dollars,
shit in the back of my
hundreds
PC,
of
I ain't
billions
trying to
of
get them
dollars.
with the desk all
I had
tooted up
no
for that
inflation,
shit.
virtually no
Ain't got no
inflation.
other USB-C
They have the
cables?
highest
It takes
inflation
5
perhaps in
seconds
the
to
history
quite
of our
literally
country
unplug the
because
cable.
I've never seen a
You
worse
get it
booted
booted up
time.
for.
People can't go out and buy
You gonna
cereal
get
or
batteries
meat
to
or
death.
eggs or anything else. The
But then I gotta
people of
back
our
underneath
country
to
are
plug it back in.
absolutely dying with what they've done. They've
you need it
destroyed
for?
the economy.
That's
And
what-
all you
that's
have
the
to
only
do
cable
is
I
look
got
at
for
the
my
poll.
controller.
The polls say 80
You don't use a
and
PS5 controller.
90% That the Trump
Yeah,
economy
no, they're
was
both
great,
USB-C.
that their economy was terrible.
And not
Your
USB-C,
PS4
micro
Ask for your response. Hear
USB.
what the president said there, because
Your
the
Xbox
Biden
controller not
administration did
USB-C?
keep a
No, I
number
broke
of the
that one.
Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that
Beat
the
that one
Trump
with the,
administration
into the bar 'cause
resulted
of
in
Madden
a
and
trade
broke.
deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen
Yeah, I had
in the
one I
history
threw
of
at my
America.
desk.
He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up
Shit.
doing is under Donald Trump's
This one?
presidency,
Wow.
he ended up selling
run
American
out the paint,
chips
fucking knock
to
it to
China to help them improve and modernize their military. Basically sold us out when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which
Yeah,
means
President Buzzer.
focusing on the details of what that requires,
A2 debate.
focusing on
has
relationships
plays
with
on
our
my screen,
allies,
hello?
focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing
Oh,
on what
fuck
we
is this
need
guy
to
doing,
do
bro?
to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having
They're
on the
winning!
short end of the stick in terms of workers'
Yeah, you
rights.
guys aren't
But
locked,
what Donald
man.
Trump did,
You guys,
let's talk
I'm
about
just
this,
the
with
ass.
COVID,
Like, how do I tell
is he
you?
actually thanked President Xi for what
I
he
just
did.
said we're not locked. You
Look
just
at his
missed me
tweet.
wide open.
Thank you,
Emmy.
President Xi,
Emmy.
Wrong guy, my
exclamation
fault.
point. When
Emmy.
we know
I know.
that Xi was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the
Need
boy.
that, Derek. Need that,
President
Derek.
Trump will let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago
Point guard,
is out
point
the
guard.
window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going
God
to send
damn,
her a
I'm
MAGA
broke.
hat.
Back at it.
She's gone to my philosophy, but if she ever got elected, she'd change it.
Fuck it,
Stop
ass.
running with me,
No,
bro.
End of
bro.
our country. She's a
Take
Marxist.
him on round.
You know she's a Marxist.
Fuck.
Her father's
That
a
core,
Marxist
bro.
professor in
Our hands are
economics,
full.
and
God
he
damn
taught
it.
her well.
Bro, we
When
lost,
you look at
bro.
what she's done to our
Because
country,
they can't
and you
hit.
look at these
Fucking
millions
corner.
and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million
You're
people,
0 for
not
5
the
from
15 that
3.
people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than
Look at that.
New York
What the
State
fuck?
pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals, and that's bad for our economy too. You know, you mentioned before we'll talk about immigration
I'm gonna
later.
play out of the
Well,
paint.
bad
Derek,
immigration
so
is the
thing
worst
was
thing that
called
can
AI
happen to
encouragement.
our economy. They have, and she
It's gonna be
has,
boring for you, though, no?
destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be good for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many
Oh, God, I didn't know
with
that. Yeah, I
regard
had
to your
that in his
6-week
bag.
abortion ban because you initially had said that
Yeah,
it was
those are
too short.
always
And you
like
said, quote,
these,
I'm going to be
Look at
voting
you,
that
right in
we
the same
need
corner.
more than
Take a
6
take.
weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban.
You got to
Vice
take
President
two.
Harris
Oh, shit,
says
you
that
didn't
women
upgrade.
shouldn't
Yeah.
trust you on the issue of abortion because you've
Shit, better
changed
than any
your
of-
position so many times. Therefore,
Upper shit,
why
go
should
ahead
they
then.
trust
Well,
you?
the reason I'm doing that
70.
vote
Oh,
is because
hey,
the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical.
It
The
shocks.
Democrats are
Don't you?
radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month.
I mean,
is
you think he got
absolutely
some,
fine.
like-
He also says
I'm sitting in that
execution
chair, though.
after
Ooh.
birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me. Hence the vote.
God
But what I did
damn,
is something
brother.
For 52 years,
Walter,
they've been
fight
trying
down
to
here.
get Roe v. Wade
Damn, Buzz, push me out the
into
way.
the states.
Alright.
And through the
Alright.
genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were.
Oh!
I wanted to rape
believe in
him.
the exception.
What the fuck?
Reagan
What the
life of
fuck?
the
What the
man. I
fuck?
believe strongly in
What
it.
the
Ronald
fuck?
Reagan did also. 85%
Oppo
of
though,
Republicans
Oppo though.
exceptions.
Oh,
Very
I
important.
felt that one
But
though.
we were able to get it, and now states are voting
Shot
on
though,
it.
what?
And for the first
I need
time,
that. Do I
you're
get
going to
that?
see. Look, this is
Got
an
no fair,
issue that's
dude.
torn our country
Nah,
apart
I ain't getting that.
for
I
52
don't need
years.
that.
Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's
I mean, I'm in there though. I'm sitting in that chair, shucks.
Ohio,
I'll
the
go
vote
sugar
was
the
somewhat
dog.
liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat
No.
liberal, much more
Just
liberal
tried
than people would have
raping him,
thought.
he said.
But each individual state is
Sleeping on big
voting.
shots,
It's the
dude.
vote of the people now.
Fine,
It's not
boy.
tied
Good
up in the
fine, boy.
federal government. I did a great
Fine.
service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is
like-
no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here.
Damn.
That one is.
Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal
Go hustle.
for a doctor or nurse to
Gotta get that
provide
RNG.
health care. In one state,
Proof.
it provides
Oh, I'm
prison for
blinking, bro.
life.
Guess
Trump
you
abortion
don't.
bans that make no exception
Big
even for
ass.
rape and
Blinking, bro.
incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right
mean,
to
the
make
AI
a
be
decision about
gross,
what
though,
happens
no?
to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree.
nigga look
the
like
government
LaMelo.
and Donald Trump certainly should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care
Well, you
in
should've
an
ran into
emergency
me.
room because the
Could've been the
healthcare
brother
providers
way.
are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband
no.
didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a
Bro, is it like
pregnancy to
hella hard to
term.
get takeover in this
They
shit?
don't want
You have
that.
to like unlock it, I'm pretty sure.
And I pledge to you,
What that mean?
when Congress
lock
passes a
there?
bill to put back
I mean,
in
at the
place
end
the
of it.
protections of
Yeah,
Roe
you
v.
have to wait
Wade,
for the lock.
as
You have
President of the United
to get
States,
it
I
there
will
like 15
proudly
times, and then
sign
you'll
it
finally unlock
into
it.
15?
law.
Yeah.
But understand, if Donald Trump were
Hang
to
out,
be
dude.
reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project
Oh my God,
2025,
coming back.
there would be a national
Hit me.
abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President.
You can't
Harris.
quit.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie.
Now you get a
I'm
ban.
not signing a ban, and there's
First
no
ban of
reason
the
to
day?
sign a ban because
Oh,
we've
that's where you're
gotten
losing
what
some, like, 2
everybody
minutes
wanted.
ago.
Democrats, Republicans,
Yeah,
and
AI was
everybody
cooking
else,
us.
every legal scholar
Nah.
wanted it
AI
to be brought back into
It
the
wasn't
states.
AI,
and the
it was their
states are
student
voting.
guard.
And it may take a little time, but for 52 years,
me?
this
AI
issue
has
torn
no
our
evil
country apart.
AI has 8
And
points.
they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible.
I didn't even
The
shoot that.
states are now voting.
Board.
What she
Yes,
says is an
Go ahead,
absolute
plans
lie.
for me to
And
do.
as far as the abortion
I'm 0 for
ban,
7.
no.
AI's
I'm not
boxing
in
me
favor
out
of
from the
abortion
3-point line.
ban.
I just
I'm
said I'm
not,
coming.
because this issue
Where the
has
bro
now
never
been
used
down,
drum
he down, he
line.
down.
Would you veto
Go,
a
go, go.
national abortion ban if it
Well, I
came
won't have to because, again, two things. Number
I
one,
never
she
will.
said she'll go back
Oh
to
my
Congress. She'll
God.
never get the vote.
I'll never
It's
see a
impossible
change
for her
in
to
it.
get the vote, especially now with
I
the
can't make a full
50-50,
white though, bro.
essentially
Never in my
50-50 in both
You're
Senate and
high
the House.
risk.
She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even
Turn that
come
off.
close to it. So it's just talk.
Fucking
You know what it
L
reminds
reaction
me of
time,
when
bro.
they
I'm
said they're
gonna
going to get
shoot
student loans terminated,
I don't know,
and it
actually.
ended up being a total
Eric, I should turn that off.
catastrophe. The
What?
student loans,
High
and
risk?
then her, I think probably her boss,
Just turn it
if you
off.
call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again, we'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how
got
unfair
that
that would have
board
been,
over,
part of the
man.
reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that. that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me. But I really didn't.
I mean, he was doing fucking circles.
I mean, how did he just get open?
He was doing fucking circles.
They were on
to
five.
They couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, we don't have time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and in asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting.
Just because I had it good on the meter, it's just my free throw so low, so it's fucking hard to fucking actually make them. That meter be moving.
Couples who pray
It'd be like sneaking up on you too.
and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers, to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
excuse me, I have to respond. Another lie.
No!
I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF,
Right here, Derek, right here.
I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in.
Now I tripped up for you, bud.
They know that, and everybody else knows it.
I just shot 0 for 7. You gotta back out because I gotta change this shit.
And the other thing,
you should try Ferris's. No bullshit.
You should ask.
That's the next one up on the list.
Will she allow
John Morant's getting deleted.
9th month, 7th month.
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v. Wade, you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th month, and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
Thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped.
Wait, if they do that,
My question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised.
Wait, Derek, you said I'm supposed to have a
And I'm going to actually do
pastyle?
something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you
I
to
don't know what
attend
your
one of
pastyle
Donald
is.
Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks
everyone
about
here?
fictional characters like Hannibal
I'm at the
Lecter.
door, yeah.
He will
I'm at the
talk
door.
about windmills
Tyson
cause
Ford.
cancer. And what you will also notice
Yeah,
is that
back
people
up, yeah.
start leaving his rallies
Who's
early
that?
out of
Back
exhaustion
up a little
and
bit.
boredom.
I wasn't there.
Yeah, but, okay, go ahead. Chucky, I think you're right. There you
And your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first, and I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies.
come
There's no
with my
reason to
mom,
go.
come with my McRibs.
And the people that do go, she's
Huh?
busing them
You
in and
this
paying
family?
them
My
to
mom
be
come
there.
McRibs.
And then showing them in
Your
a
mom's
different
bringing
light.
McRibs?
So she
No,
can't
my
talk
mom's
about that.
making
People
ribs.
don't leave my rallies.
Oh, I
We have
thought
the
you said
biggest
she's
rallies,
bringing
the most
McRibs.
incredible rallies in the history of politics.
We got
That's
what
because
are the
people wanna
sides?
take
Ribs and
their
what?
country back.
Nigga, ribs
Our
and
Veggies.
country
taters?
is being lost. We're a failing nation.
Ribs
it
and who?
happened
Mac and cheese.
3.5
Said ribs and
years
some
ago.
veggies.
And
Mac and
what's
cheese and some
going on
cornbread.
here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into
Cornbread.
another subject. What they have done to our
Cornbread.
country by allowing
Okay.
these
What the
millions
fuck?
and millions of people
On
to come
stream.
into our country.
You guys act like
and
I
look
don't
at
always
what's
call it
happening to
that.
the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield,
Yo, he's
they're eating the
racist!
dogs. The people that came in, they're eating the
Yeah, what
cats.
happened? What
They're
did he
eating.
say?
Trump
They're
said the
eating
immigrants who
pets
came over
of the
eating cats and
people that
dogs.
live there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase.
And she's looking at him like,
Make
oh,
America
honey,
great
are you
again."
serious?
She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of
Okay,
success. Not only success,
Okay.
In your
we'll
bag
end up
then,
being
LaMelo?
Venezuela
Fuck
on
it.
steroids.
What do you
Dr.
mean
Woods,
he
wanna clarify
wrong?
here,
You're
bring up
quite literally an
Springfield,
immigrant.
Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city
I don't care if
manager
you're an
there.
American
He
or
told us
not, you're an
there have been
immigrant,
no
nigga.
credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by
Word
individuals
up there, man.
within the immigrant community.
Immigrant.
All
I've seen
this-
people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
The
the
people
boy?
on television
on,
say
Ty.
my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But the
television.
people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was
Alright,
eaten
bro.
by the people that went there.
Again, the
Man,
Springfield
they
city
change
manager
everything
says
up
there's
first,
no evidence
yeah.
of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
Hope you got your
Talk
help.
about extreme. You know, this is, I think, one of the reasons why in this
Wrong guy.
election
Oh, that
I
works.
actually
Uh-oh.
have the endorsement
Back on.
of 200
What?
Republicans
How do I grab
who
that?
Yeah.
have
Nigga,
formally worked
what?
with President Bush,
L2.
Mitt Romney, and John McCain,
Hold the
including
clip,
the
bro.
endorsement
I am
of
the
President Dick Cheney and Congress member
Get in.
Liz Cheney.
two.
And if
Get
you
in with
want
me.
to really know
Legend rose up.
Wait,
the
what?
inside track on who
Who's this?
the
Yeah,
former
man,
president is, if he
Are
didn't
you
make it
sleeping
clear
or
already,
you okay?
Alright,
just
alright.
ask people who have worked with him.
Alright,
His former
corner.
chief of staff,
Corner.
a four-star general,
green.
has said he has contempt for the
Yeah, I'm big
Constitution of
boy.
the United
I'm
States.
layman.
His former national security
get laid,
advisor
kid.
has said he is dangerous.
That was wild.
His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind
Before I
of
even know,
rhetoric,
ball went to-
when the issues that affect
that's
the
Katie.
American
Him.
people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick
Shit
minute to
fucking
respond here.
took me out of bounds
Thank you.
with your big
because
arm.
When I hear that, see,
I
I'm a
say,
different kind of a
Josh Allen.
person. I fired most of those people.
I mean, come
Not
on,
so
dude.
graciously. They
Ugh.
did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people
late.
who's
Middle
were
word.
just
Three or
killed,
two?
I know,
viciously
it's
and violently killed.
Hey,
And I got to
yo.
know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should
I mean,
have fired all
you
those
keep selling my
generals,
assist
all
today,
those
too.
people, because that
Everyone
was
else
one
is
of the most
green. Me just
incompetently
misled.
handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper, he was no good, I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books, with nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job,
Shit,
and
and he's hustling. Look at him, bro.
anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people.
Why don't they ever fucking guard you, bro? They always guard me. Am I the threat?
But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far.
5-0, bro. It's so
In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president, in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military. You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah.
You're lucky.
It is much higher because of them.
I picked up your good. You picked them up and then ran away from them.
I thought we were gonna switch back on some
terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country, and they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric.
What I tell you, nah, he's getting bored. When he gets bored, he starts happening.
I'm done. Our country.
Like, we don't gotta play this shit.
Let in, and all over the world, crime is down. All over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you. I'll let you respond, Vice President Harris.
Well, I think this is so rich. Coming from someone who has been prosecuted for national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing.
Oh, shit.
And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country.
It's a fucking wall. I'm putting you in a lock.
I'm listening to Trump right now. Leave me alone.
President Trump, thank you.
Fucking
Mahatma
Gandhi, that bitch.
On this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand,
I got
this is someone
fucking
who has
Shaquille.
openly
What's his
said
name? Khalil
he would
Shakir down there.
terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the
Nice with
Constitution
Mondig.
of the United States. That he would weaponize the Department of Justice
early
against
pro,
his
like-
political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed
You got Jalen Ramsey, Josh
for
Allen,
members
Khalil
of our
Shakir.
military. Understand
Bro, how do I make my
what it
release
would mean if
faster
Donald
and
Trump
it's
were
still
back in
slightly
the White
release?
House
You have
with
it?
no
Wait, do you have a release?
guardrails.
Is release
Because
fast?
certainly we know now the
My
court
release
won't
is
stop him.
slowest.
We know J.D.
I'll
Vance
just put
is
that
not
bitch
going to
on
stop
set
him.
point, bro.
It's up to the American
Hit me.
people.
Vice President
stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice
Gotta be
President
loyal, bro.
Harris, in your last run for president,
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy. They're
Jalen tried to run
the
her
threat
out.
to democracy.
Damn,
There's a
bro.
fake Russia investigation
We do have
that
a
went
corner.
nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban
guys wanna switch to the 2-3
fracking. Now
zone?
you don't.
What you
You
just
wanted
call me?
mandatory
know what that
government
means.
buyback.
Yeah,
We're voting on
Your
the run of
campaign
zone. We should
says
run
you
3-2
don't.
if we're gonna
You
run the
supported
zone.
decriminalizing border crossings.
Let's just run
Now
double
you're
mug.
taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not
Pull all out
changed. So
blitz.
then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So
Oh, I
my
didn't give it a
values have not
corner.
changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in
The only reason
Pennsylvania.
I'm saying that's
I
because
made
they're
that
playing
very
5
clear in
out.
2020. I
Yeah.
will not ban fracking. I have not
Okay.
banned fracking as Vice
what's
President of the
changing?
United States, and in
If
fact,
we need, we'll
I
switch.
was the
you
tie-breaking
and-
vote on the Inflation Reduction
Andrew
Act,
and
which
Andrew plays
opened
top.
new leases for
You and
fracking.
Evil play
My
wings.
position is that
Us
we
is
have
paying, I
got
kinda
to
just
invest
look
in
around.
diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on
You just
foreign
lost
oil.
her.
We have had the largest increase
Dummy.
in
Come on.
domestic oil production in history.
Your cousin
because
might
of
be
an
slow.
approach that recognizes that we
No
cannot
bias, but like they
over-rely
were
on
talking
foreign
about
oil.
abortion.
As it relates to my
And that nigga
values,
started
let me
talking
tell
about
you,
student
I grew
loans.
up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and
Who,
saved
Eva's cousin?
and was able to buy our
Not
first
true.
home when I
No,
was
Trump.
a teenager.
He was getting fried in abortion. And he
The values I
brought up
bring
student
to the
loans.
importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody
He
got
knows that's what the
handed
people want.
$400 million on a
Yeah,
silver
but
platter
he
and then
lied
filed
because
bankruptcy 6 times.
You know how they had that
Is a
whole shit where they
value that I
didn't
bring
get
to my
paid off? My
work
shit got
to
paid
say
off.
we are going to work with the private sector
mom
and
shit got
home
paid off,
builders to increase
I don't
3
give a fuck
million
who
homes,
wins, bruh.
increase by 3 million
Oh, we
homes
gotta
by
get
the end
these
of my
illegal
first
niggas
term.
outta here.
My work that is related
Duke,
to
Mexico.
having a
Bro,
friend
we
when I was
gotta-
in high school who was
we gotta
sexually
chalk
assaulted by her
someplace, bro.
stepfather.
Start a war. That
And
shit
my
could be the
focus
next Call of
then
Duty, bro.
on
Mexico
protecting
war
women and
crime.
children from
India.
violent crime is
They don't
based
even
on a
have the
value
fucking
that is
funds to
deeply
have a war
grounded
with
in the
us.
importance
Yeah,
of
them niggas would
standing
get
up for
fucking
those who are
demolished.
most vulnerable.
The only country
My
that could ever go to war
work
is
that is about
China.
protecting Social Security and Medicare
Russia.
Oh,
is
Russia.
based on long-standing
No, they
work
don't
that
have
I
the
have
money.
done. Protecting
Bro,
seniors from
they would,
scams.
they would, they would have, they would have,
Values
fuck, they would have to have
not
China to even
changed.
do anything.
And what is important is that there is a
But I'm
president
pretty sure
who
them and
actually
China are
brings
allies right now.
Hit me,
values
hit me, hit
and
me.
Yeah.
perspective
Don't worry.
that is
They didn't
about
give you the
lifting
foul.
But
people
I
up
wanted the contact. My
and
bad.
not beating people down.
Why does he keep switching?
And name
Quick stop.
Keep switching
Let's
my
go.
He
measure
fucking
of the
playing my
leader
guy score even.
is the leader who
I mean, what are you
actually
guarding
understands
mine for?
The strength is not
I
in beating
follow
people
Aaron.
down. It's
She
in
did fry him
lifting
on
people
abortion,
up.
not gonna lie, but
I
he got his
intend to
get
be
back on the
that
border.
president.
President Trump,
Yeah,
your
but what
First of all, I wasn't
fucking Trump
given
supporters don't
$400
realize?
million. I wish I
They talk
was.
about
My
the border,
father's
they're talking about
a Brooklyn builder,
Mexico.
Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father.
Like, I was
learned a
talking
lot
to
from him,
Extra,
but I
he's
was
like,
given a fraction of that, a
oh,
tiny
that
fraction,
gives the
and I built it
Venezuelans out.
into
I'm like, I didn't know
many,
Venezuelans were
many billions of
Mexicans.
dollars,
Should I get back
many
on?
billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that.
Come on, boy.
Fracking? She's
I
been
don't know
against it
shit
for
about
12 years.
politics.
I don't give a fuck.
Defund
I'm
the
just saying,
police.
nigga, I
She's
need
been
these
against
illegal
that
niggas
for-
out
I'm
of here.
just glad
She
you're not
gave all
voting
that
Trump
stuff
or
up.
Biden anymore.
Very
I
wrongly,
can't
very
shoot, Derek,
horribly,
and you're over here
and
chatting
everybody's
right now.
laughing
At least
at
there's
it,
some
okay? They're
variance.
all laughing at it. She
I'll be
gave
quiet.
up at
No,
least
I'm
12
sorry.
and
Don't be
probably
quiet.
14 or
Bro, I
15
haven't hit a
different
3 in like
policies
3
left.
games.
She was big on
I'm not
defund the
even
police.
exaggerating.
exciting. It's been about 3 games. Feels like a month.
I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please.
God, they're all green, but me.
Go ahead, call him an African again.
Give me the ball, Turban.
She went out
Yo,
Evo.
in
Turban.
Minnesota
Oh my god.
and wanted
Bro,
to let
this nigga's
criminals
not even
that
paying
killed
it.
people.
Yo,
that
I
burned
promise
down
you,
Yo.
Trump's
Minneapolis.
Yo.
fucking deporting you, nigga. It doesn't matter anyway.
She did
You're
things
gone.
that nobody would ever think of.
You're
Now
cooked.
she wants to do transgender
Whoever wins, you're
operations
getting
on illegal
deported,
aliens
nigga.
that are in prison.
Okay, can we just
Fuck
lock
this
in?
game.
I mean, your team.
Liberal.
What do you mean,
that
can
will
we
Come on,
lock
log
in? Shut
in,
up,
shut
fuck
up,
that
fuck
shit.
that.
confiscate your guns, and she
Hey.
was
Look at-
not fracking in Pennsylvania. If
Good
she
shit,
won the
Mahmoudi.
election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end.
Oh,
on
that's
day
my
one.
guy.
Just to finish one thing so important in my
Who's
opinion.
got
What
him?
do you do?
Oh, I'm
So
stuck on
I
Ty.
got the oil
I'm literally stuck on him.
Let's just
They
play
took-
it.
Not
they
fucking
took
paying
over.
attention.
They got
Me?
rid of it, started getting rid of it.
Yes, you.
And
I
the
am.
prices were
It was
going
I was
Buzz.
just pissed
the roof.
myself.
I got
They
stuck on you.
immediately let these guys go
Oh, stuck on
to where
die.
they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5
Dude.
times higher
Alright, we're
because
good.
you're talking about
I
3.5
can't
years
hit.
ago. They got it up.
Oh shit,
to
I'm
where
passing
I
the
was.
ball.
Go,
again.
Buzz.
I was
No
running
choice
down like I
because
was
the prices
Derek.
of energy were quadrupling and doubling.
Yeah,
You
make
saw what
these.
happened to gasoline.
Yeah, make
So
these
they
buzz.
said, let's go
El
back to
Nasty
Trump.
yes.
But if she won the election, the day after that election,
Bro,
they'll go back to destroying our country.
damn
And
it,
oil will
Buzz.
be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills and we'll go back to solar,
Yeah,
where they
one.
need a
Yeah.
whole desert to get some energy to come out of. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar. But they take
I'm looking for.
400, 500 acres
Anthony
of
Davis,
desert
President
soil.
President Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things for
that we
the
have
Wait,
to
did
get
that
to.
shit on?
Thank you.
Ron
Lindsey,
Durant or
we have an
Melo.
election in just
don't have
56 days. And I want to
Huh?
talk about the peaceful transfer
I didn't see
of power,
Melo.
which, of course,
I don't
we
know,
all
I
know
might
is
Oh,
the
wait, you're
cornerstone
over
of our
16. You
democracy
said
and the
Durant.
role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said
Or
you would be right there
Aldridge
with them.
used to be good.
The country and the world saw what played out on the
Come on.
Capitol
I was
that
gonna put
day,
on
the
Aldridge.
officers
If there's no
coming
Durant,
under
I'll put on
attack.
Aldridge.
Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television
who else
off the
has
Oval
good free
Office.
throw?
You
There
did
was
send
Tim
out
Duncan,
tweets,
though.
but it was more than 2
Yeah, I don't
hours
know
before
what
you
his
sent
free
out
throw
that
looks
video
like.
message telling your
Yeah, I
supporters to go
randomly named that
home.
nigga.
Is there anything you regret
I think that's
about
someone
what you
called
did
that,
on
like,
that day?
was a
You
good
just
free throw
said
shooter.
a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this
Alright,
group of
yo,
people
switches now.
that have been treated so
I'll get
badly.
paint,
I asked,
some-
what
with
about
some of
all
the
the
corners,
people that
some
are
of the
pouring
ones.
into our country and killing people that she allowed
Fucking
to pour in? She was the
tall-ass
border czar,
African,
remember
man.
that? She was the border czar. She doesn't want to
That's how they be
dressing
dressing in the African
In
league.
fact, she said at the beginning, "Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the
I'm
border."
put
yet."
leg
That's
sleeves on.
because she knows what a bad job they've done.
Look,
What
he must
about
pick
those
that
people?
shit.
When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all
Zone?
over the world.
I
2-3 or 3-2?
All over the world. And
3-2.
crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are
you-
those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people
We're
that
not running
burned
this
down
off.
Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle?
Oh, this
When
shit.
they
Look
went
at the ball,
into
I can't
Seattle,
do
They
this
took
shit.
over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just
that.
ask
You
you.
might ask her that question.
You were the president.
You're
were
saying need
watching
that like
it
I've hit a
unfold on
3 in the
television.
last
It's a
month.
very simple question as we move forward.
I almost
to a
just
federal
fucking
election.
suplex my
Is there
monitor.
anything you regret about what
I
you
was,
did on that
I
day?
was fucking winding up,
Yes,
bro. I
right.
would
It
have
had nothing
fucking
to
launched
do
that
with
shit
that.
into
They
the
asked
wall.
me
You
to
got
make
left corner a
speech. I
second.
showed up for a speech. I said, I
You
think
said,
it's going to be
Evo, you
big.
got right
I
corner.
went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know,
Hey, stay top,
this is going to be a
stay on top,
very
Evo.
big
I'll get him
rally
when
or
it comes
whatever
around.
you want to call
Right
it.
corner.
And
I
again,
got
it
stuck on
wasn't
some
done by me. It
animation.
was done by others. I said,
Well,
I'd like
animation
to give you
canceled.
10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she
Oh,
is
left,
fully
second.
responsible for what happened.
Left.
They want to
No,
get
He
rid
was
of
over
that
there.
tape.
He was over there.
It would have
Oh, you
never
were over there last
happened
time,
if
though.
Nancy
I know,
Pelosi
but
and the mayor
there's no
of
point in
Washington did
switching
their
if he was
jobs.
over there
I
already.
wasn't responsible
always
for
say-
security.
what is he
Nancy
supposed to do? You always
Pelosi
say
was
you're saying-
responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as
What?
president, not about
What?
former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice
As a-
President
at a
Harris
bound.
to respond here.
My bad.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the
Go,
vice
sorry,
president-elect. I was
Yeah, I mean,
also an
it
acting
makes
Stay,
senator.
stay up
I
top.
was
I
right
there.
here.
got, I got wing.
And
Stay up
on
top.
that day, the president of the
Bro,
United
you're not
States
even.
incited
I mean, I
a
can't
violent
draw. I
mob
can't fucking can guard both.
To attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement
Go back
officers
to
were
man,
injured,
bro.
and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated
Literally
situation.
run out and run back in.
Let's remember Charlottesville,
Man,
where
go
there
back
was
to
a
man,
mob of
bro.
people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate.
There's a D right here. Come on.
And what did the president
Where are
then
you
at the
listening
time
to?
say? There were fine people on each side.
Like, who's going?
Let's remember
Mayor
that
LaMelo.
when it came to the
We're
Proud
here.
Boys,
I'm
a
ready for you.
militia, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who
board, thank
remembers
God.
what
Corner,
January
corner.
6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's
Oh, I
time to
pressed the
turn
wrong
the
button there.
page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country.
I'm there though.
To
I'm there though.
stand
I'm
for
there
our
though.
democracy, to
there
stand
though.
for
I'm
rule
there.
of law, and to end the
Seeking wigs.
chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course
Maybe the best
for the
African I've ever
future
played.
and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that
Corner.
related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also,
point game.
on Charlottesville,
Gotta get 12.
that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it
hit
up.
me on the
They
slip,
bring
bro.
2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The President of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'll say, come on down to the office, let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to
There.
focus
Everyone
on
stay
this
composed,
next
walk
issue,
in.
both of you, because it really
Lamp right
brings
here.
us this into focus. Truth in these times that we're living in.
yeah.
Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely
Good
claimed
shot
that you
right
won, many times saying you won in a
Nah,
landslide.
man, give me one more.
In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate,
That was a good
you have
shot,
said,
nice.
quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't
Very
quite
good.
make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in
No, I
2020?
don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say that.
sarcastically. You
But
know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever
not
got. I
flagrant.
was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have
That's
to have
good
good
lord.
elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying
What
to
is
get
it,
them to
early,
vote.
bro?
They can't
Like,
even
what do you
speak English. They
mean,
don't even know
bro?
what country they're
Shut
in.
up.
And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No judge
Republican,
looked at it.
and said
they
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news, and the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker, so he still believes he did not lose the election.
Oh, fuck, I pressed the wrong button. My fault, son.
And yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us, we won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Nice.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that.
Fuck, I
and
pressed the
clearly
wrong
he is
button,
having
bro.
a very difficult time processing
It makes me all
that.
fucking retards
But
up.
we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom work with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond.
Hey, let me just tell you about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men. They call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did.
Very late. I didn't even hold that shit, bro.
He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected and Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President
I was up very early. My bar was full.
How would you do
It started leaking, bro.
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis.
I'm rapping you.
Many of them young
Corner,
people
corner.
who were simply attending a
Oh my
concert.
god, bro.
Women were horribly
Didn't think you was gonna
raped.
play me,
And so
dog.
absolutely, I said then, I say now,
Yeah, foul.
Israel
Yeah, foul.
has a right to defend itself. We would.
Hope they don't have a free throw.
And how it does so matters. Because it is also true, far too
foul.
many innocent
What
Palestinians
is it not?
have been
What
killed.
is this? Selected?
Children, mothers.
Yeah.
Left
What
one,
we
right?
know is that this war must
yeah.
end. It must end immediately, and the way
He
it
has the
will
best
end
free
is we
throw.
need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that.
Off.
Work around the clock, also understanding that
Shake
we
them out,
must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must
Why are
have
you
a
not at
two-state
the
solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians
This went 3 for
have security,
14.
self-determination,
Yeah,
and the
shot
dignity they so rightly deserve.
No, last week games have gone 0 for 7.
With Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza.
If I were president,
Maybe I'm
it would have
autistic,
never
bro.
started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up. Far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be
talking about my
gone.
people right now.
It would have never happened.
Them nasty
Iran was
fuckers.
broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas
Back
or
me on there.
Hezbollah
Haven't
or
been
any of the
jumps on 3
28
games.
different spheres
try the
of
Ferris one?
terror.
Was
And
that
they
that
are
game?
spheres
Come on,
of terror,
no, bro, like,
horrible terror. They had
look
no
like
money.
I just had
It was a
fucking
big
autism.
story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror.
Yeah, bro.
They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again,
Yeah, I do agree,
divide
Kevin Durant, free throw.
and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear. They can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it, because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after this.
It was a regular day for 19-year-old Melissa Witt.
She went to meet her mom at a bowling church league, but she never makes it into the bowling alley. My gut knew this was not a young girl who just ran away.
New information, pools of blood were found by detectives.
I'd just love to have her back more than anything in the world.
It is a heart-wrenching day for the family of Melissa Witt.
Police found the body in the Ozark National Forest.
You had several suspects.
All these kinds of leads.
A known serial killer in your area. Could he be involved?
We're actually finding key evidence that could have slipped through the cracks. You're looking for that game-changing piece.
Her last hours on this earth were probably the most horrific a person can experience.
This beautiful young girl. Police will find out what happened.
At Wit's End, the hunt for a killer, only on Hulu.
Baywatch is a fantasy. When you hear that theme song, it was a wild time, and I was a wild chick.
Jason Momoa exploded.
Carmen was a bombshell.
Pamela Anderson was an icon.
I'm really proud of everything I've done. Almost.
Baywatch was a whirlwind of epic highs and bitter lows.
Everyone likes to watch sexy things.
You're 24. He's 54.
Yeah. It just seemed like I had met my soulmate.
You fired 4 times.
Friday, 2020 is all new.
The 32-year-old former ballerina, the center of the so-called Black Swan trial.
Here we go.
Hello?
You haven't spoken out before. Why did you decide to
I'm at
talk
the door, I'm ready.
The stunning
Oh, said he'd be back. Yeah, he said he's at the door. He's there whenever. Some shit like that.
You just start whenever?
I think.
New jumper alert. Ready? Ready?
I am.
Ready?
Let's be great, fellas.
Kidding me, bitch?
Be great, fellas.
Great. Spit it out.
Spit it out.
To our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over.
Drake break. Fuck, I'm sad.
What? Is that shit over, Tom?
No. Not yet.
I'm watching the moves playing it close.
SOD. My dad too locked into the debate. I'm serving tables and making the food. What the fuck, man? Got you running the whole joint, bro.
Wait, what joint fair is cut?
Need my degree already, man. Soon. Stay loud, yeah. What do you say?
What joint first, Coat?
Pizza place.
Here we go.
New jumper alert. New jumper alert.
Got me top.
Wow. That's first everything is what they got to you.
Alright, shucks.
Pocket pick. Oh yeah, I was about to say I didn't think I was gonna get the pass. That was the only reason why I didn't pass.
Presidential debate tonight. We're going to continue here, and I want to turn to the war in Ukraine. We're now 2.5 years into this conflict. Mr. President, it has been the position of the Biden administration that we must defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy. It's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries.
Stop laughing, man, and focus up.
24 hours. You said so.
I'm sick and tired of you dragging this
How
team
exactly
down.
would you do that?
I'm just chilling.
Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save
boy.
lives that are
Making
being
wise,
needlessly, people being
I don't want
killed
the
by the
normal.
millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're
You
getting
mean
with
I
your
hit the
fake
whites
numbers.
again?
Look, we're in for
But the normal
250
is that
billion or
point.
more.
And I still got slightly
Because
early.
they don't ask Europe,
I'm annoyed
which is
at
a
that
much
point, yeah.
bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done.
I'm gonna
than
need
we
to
are.
push.
They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you
Bro,
don't
like,
have the courage to ask Europe, like I did with NATO.
Is that a take file
They
in?
paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 270.
That nigga can't. Oh, he stepped in. He can make twos.
To 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well.
You gonna move?
Nigga don't want to move his base.
Okay, they respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you
I wasn't
respect
even near the
him?
rebound.
For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years.
Ooh,
Hasn't
shit.
spoken to anybody.
What the
They
fuck,
don't even try
nigga?
and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president.
You don't want to
If
shoot the
win,
ball I gave you.
When I'm president-elect,
I just
and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other,
okay, bro.
I'll get them together.
I
That war
guess.
would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh,
Hang out.
he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's... Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up.
Jesus.
Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to
That's
get
out
this
of
war
bounds,
finished
bro.
and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate
Literally
a
just
deal,
catch the
because
ball
we
and it,
have
like,
to stop
shoves
all
me out of
these
bounds.
human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal
What?
with Putin?
How's that open, bro? I literally just ran over and put my hands up.
Well, first of all, it's
I
important
would have thought,
to
bro. Like,
realize
this guy with
that you're not
fucking
running
red hairs,
against Joe
just
Biden,
pure
running
locks
against me.
flying everywhere.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours
Corner,
is because he would
corner,
just
corner.
give it up. And that's not
I
who
ain't
we are
banned
as
that shit,
Americans.
nigga.
Let's understand what happened here. I actually
That's what I
met
cut.
with Zelensky a few days
know,
before
I know,
Russia
My bad.
invaded,
I didn't even-
tried through force to
got me
change
in the corner.
territorial boundaries, to
I can't
defy
do
one of the
anything.
most important
Sorry.
international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial
Nice.
integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend
Corner.
himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank.
Bro, call your
to
button, bro.
Poland and Romania.
I'll literally
my circle.
And through the work that I and others did, we brought
I'll literally do the
50
same thing and get a
countries
contact in the next
together
position.
to
Just
support
fucking
Ukraine
live.
in its righteous
Every time I
defense.
pass it to you, that shit
And
always
because
fucking
of our
misleading.
support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania
how is that wide
you
open?
would give up
7
for the
seconds.
sake of favor
Corner.
and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you on Ukraine tonight. Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and now, please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow quietly. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that
how come every time I pick somebody, you yell at me?
They don't have to talk about that.
I still can't. That one's late now.
Nobody ever thinks about
I
that.
may fucking get roaches. I swear to God.
He's banning bots. You're banning real people.
But he does have that. Something we don't even
They're
like
like
to
bots
talk
to me.
about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started.
Oh,
3
bro,
days later,
slightly later.
he
Alright,
went
bet,
in
bet,
and he
bet,
started
bet.
the war.
Bro.
Because
this shit
everything
is,
they
man.
said was weak
I was
and
passing out for now.
stupid.
I literally
They said
can't
the
fucking
wrong
put up a
thing.
lip.
That war should have never
I'm
started.
checking
She
more.
was the emissary. They sent her in to
Your feet is setting you
negotiate
to
with
stand it down.
Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify something?
No, bro, it's slightly late again. I don't understand this bullshit, bro.
Oh, fuck, that shit just had me fucking skating.
When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is, it has been about standing as America always should. As a leader, upholding international rules and norms. As a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not
There's no way he just
got me in the corner.
Anyone, bro, anyone.
Bro.
Instead of caring about
we didn't get
I could have pulled that.
and that is very much what is at
You got a
stake
pump
here.
fake, buzz.
The President of the United States is
I'm using my
commander-in-chief. And the American people
Tell you how
have
to
a
play,
right
bro.
to rely
I'm not telling you how to play. I'm trying to get you
President
tips.
who understands
Yeah,
the
pump fake.
significance of America's role and responsibility in terms
Circle,
of
circle.
ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO.
Man, that's very
we were being
late,
ripped off
man.
by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before. If you
Oh,
don't
bro, I'm literally
pay,
fucking
we're not
clicking
gonna
it, bro.
protect you.
Stop yelling.
He said it was one of the most incredible jobs.
That fucking weak ass green, bro. I'm about to get off.
To Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate.
I
We witnessed a poignant moment
haven't
today
made
in
a green,
Cateaux honoring
or
the
made a
soldiers
fucking
who
jump
died
shot on
in the
5
Canadian
I promise
withdrawal
you it's
from
green.
Afghanistan.
Pretty
I do
yellow.
want to ask the Vice President, do you
Oh, it's in
believe
the corner.
you have any responsibility in
In
the
the
way that
corner.
withdrawal played
Man,
out?
my bad, bro.
Well, I will
Bad
tell you,
ball
I
right
agreed
now.
with
I'm not
President
gonna lie.
What a
Biden's
cup,
decision
boss.
to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty
Position,
in a
right?
combat
Thank
zone
you.
in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government.
I got zero.
He negotiated directly with a terrorist
Mike
organization
went just
called
like a
the
Justice Fighters or
Taliban.
some shit. Like we were hitting everything and now we can't hit shit.
That fucking chick needs to die, right? 2K's a fucking loser.
Alright.
No, get this.
Fuck up.
I should have just stayed on my other jump shot, bro. Like, this is it. I'm 0 for fucking 6.
I deadass haven't made a jump shot in 4 games.
Corner, if it's not green, then I'm gay. You still judge me or what?
Nigga, why would I not take the 2 points?
We could have had 3. 3's more than 2.
World leaders.
I'll put your 3's asshole in your fucking butthole.
1 for 7.
Former
1 for 7 on the
president,
die.
as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate
I might have a negative
the
jump
role
shot percentage.
and responsibility of the president of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently
I was
disparaged
gonna say,
and
you hold my
demeaned
fucking layup, I
members
might
of
swing
our
on you.
military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying
the
that you began the
bonus?
negotiations with the Taliban.
Okay.
So,
Don't make that.
if you take a
They
look
got that
at
shit
it,
up later.
the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban.
I mean, this guy's just the best, bro. Like, I didn't even think he was in a chance yet,
They
bro.
don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved.
And they get that pass off.
And
Just
Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why
I mean,
do you
he
send me
almost.
a
thought he was
picture
gonna
of my
block
house?
that.
Bro, he
blocked
almost
that
the
on
Band-Aid blocked me, bro.
Hey, seals he got, bro.
A
We
lot.
had nobody
Like
killed.
8.
We did have an agreement
got-
negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The
Got
reason
5.
You checked the scoreboard and because you
we were
stopped, you
getting
got a
out. We would have been out
charge.
faster than them, but we wouldn't have
Who,
lost
me?
the soldiers.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have left
Even when I'm
many
not playing, it's good
Americans
D,
behind, and we
nigga.
wouldn't have left.
Corner.
We wouldn't have left
Corner.
$85 billion worth of brand new,
I
beautiful
pressed the wrong
military
button. I just pressed
equipment
3
behind.
buttons
And
and
just to
thing.
finish,
I just pressed 3 buttons on bullshit.
blew it. The agreement said you
That's
have to do
not
this,
big,
this,
bro.
and they didn't do it.
No bullshit, I
They
just
didn't
pressed
do it.
X,
The
Y, and B at
agreement
the same
was-
time with one
Can I
finger.
change my jump shot
terminated by
mid-game?
us
I
because
wish.
they didn't
So
do
gay,
what they
bro.
were supposed to do.
I want to move
And
on.
these people did the worst withdrawal,
What am I?
and in my opinion,
Oh,
the most
for
embarrassing
6,
moment in the
man.
history of our country. And
Oh,
by the
for
way, that's why Russia
6. In
attacked
the first
Ukraine,
half.
because they saw how
Oh.
incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to
Really?
race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice
Oh,
President
foul.
Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity?
Well, first
of your
shot, couldn't
opponent?
get
I
back.
don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm
I don't
asking.
know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she
Yeah,
I
right,
got
right.
red, I got red, I got red.
and I'll say that. And then I read that she was
Okay,
black, and
nice.
that's okay. Either one is okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris,
It
your
is.
thoughts on this?
I
Right
think
there.
it's I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people.
Go, Derek.
You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of
took a fucking shot right there, Durburger.
and especially by race.
I think you
Derek was open like 3 times that position.